I don't know where we are. Okay, there we are. Yeah, he's got it right there.
All right, here we go.
Right now.
So Levi Caraway put this up. Craig Paul and myself, we put this out. These are the predictions, at least for now, so it's evidence. And if we're right, great. If we're wrong, okay, great too. Because last year I surely would not have had Baylor at the top of the list. I would have had them probably around 5, maybe 7, 8, 9. I don't know. Paul Catalina, your top 10.
My top 10, I had Baylor number 1, Oklahoma State at 2, OU at 3. Of course, that Bedlam swing game again. Kansas State 4, Texas 5, Iowa State at 6, TCU at 7, West Virginia 8th, Texas Tech 9th, and Kansas 10th.
How many of those teams do you feel like will earn a bowl bid or earn enough wins to get to a bowl game?
I think they're going to get a shot at 9.
Okay.
I really do, out of the 10.
Because Tech went to a bowl game last year and made the coaching change mid-year, and Joey McGuire has a lot of those guys back.
And to me, 7, 8, 9 might be 6 and 6, okay. 6 and 6, and 6 and 6.
Craig Smoak.
Yeah, I struggle a little bit with the top school. Ultimately went with Baylor, and folks say I'm a homer. I'm an OU fan, so not being a homer. But I mean, who else is it going to be? I know there's a case to be made for Oklahoma State. There's always a case you can make for Texas because of the talent level and all that. But really, I think it boils down to Baylor and Oklahoma as far as just logical sense on who could win the title this year. Now, Baylor's knock against them is I don't like their schedule. I don't like the amount of road games and the opponents that they have. The BYU game in week number 2 on the road. I know that doesn't affect the conference title, but still, that's a game you're probably going to get beat up a little bit early on in the season. And they don't have really much of anything returning skill position wise. So there are, some concerns there for sure. I mean, Shapen, we've seen him play 2.5 games again, so I'm supposed to believe that he's just going to make it through all 12. I have a hard time imagining that. So I definitely have some knocks on Baylor in my mind, but I mean, in comparison to the knocks that I have for others, I think they're still one of the better teams on their feet. And when you have your entire 2 deep, if not 3 deep, of offensive and defensive linemen, that's a great starting point. And I think Shapen makes that offense better than Gary Bohannon did, as far as with his arm. So I think that we'll see a bit of an improvement there. But yeah, I have questions, but I ultimately went with Baylor just because despite that schedule, I trust Dave Aranda. I do like the guys they have coming back because it's not like they're lacking in talent. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of good players coming back. It's just that some of them are young or some of them, are just not Jalen Petrie and guys that we've become used to. So long way around to just saying, yes, I know they have questions, but I can see them answering those questions and being able to just still be stable. I went Oklahoma number 2. I think Oklahoma's got a heck of a lot of talent. I think that, bottom level for them is winning 9 games probably just because that's what they do. They're a machine like that. But I do, have questions about the fact that it is a change, and it's a big change from Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley, no matter how familiar Brent Venables is. He's also a first-time head coach. I think there's some things he'll probably learn along the way, even though he bided his time and certainly learned a lot under Dabo and Stoops and others. But I don't think he's just perfect, right out of the gates. And I do wonder, I wonder how much that Kel Gundy thing lingers after what Phil Bennett said yesterday. That still just is kind of weird to me. Not that that's going to cause them to lose games per se, but I just sort of wonder about the whole fit of everything right now.
But you heard how much it bothered a guy who was not on that staff.
Yeah, right.
And that's about, the coaching fraternity and the kind of the unwritten codes of things.
Yeah.
But even still, that's not his players. That's not, there was somebody who was mad about it for sure. And clearly really mad about it. And Brent Venables did what he thought he had to do. But at the end of the day, there's going to be people who are mad about it. There's going to be people who are in the middle about it. And then there's going to be people who are mad about the fact that it went as far as it did.
Right.
And that he's not coaching there now. And so
coaches fraternity, as much as they bite back.
Right or wrong.
The coaches fraternity is tight. It's
And so it's just one of those things it's just a little awkward moment. And I just feel like there's going to be some other awkward moments for a rookie head coach, So that's kind of where I was coming from with that. Really splitting hairs, though, with Baylor and Oklahoma, though. I think Oklahoma's going to be good. Oklahoma State at 3. I expect them to be good. I just like Baylor and Oklahoma a bit more. And I'm not ready to go okay, this is the year that Spencer Sanders is, flawless and all of that. If it's going to be, it needs to be this year. But Oak State 3, K-State at 4, Texas 5, TCU at 6, and I have TCU at 6 because they return an immense amount of production, like by far more production than just about every other school in the Big 12. I don't think Sonny Dykes brings in an offense, or Garrett Wright for that matter, that's like super hard to wrap your head around. It's not like going to take them a couple seasons to figure out what they're doing. So I think there's going to be in some shootouts with some folks, and I do think there's going to be a big learning curve defensively because, well, it's not Gary Patterson anymore, right? So that's just going to be weird. And I wonder how good they are early on defensively, but I think they're going to have a good enough offense, and Sonny Dykes is a veteran coach. With all that returning talent, I think TCU is going to be better than my bottom 4, Iowa State, who does not return a lot at all. And I know some people say, well, they're going to upgrade at quarterback. Brock Purdy wasn't that great or whatever. But, like, dude, you lost more than Brock Purdy.
He's the second best quarterback that they've had in the last 30 years by Seneca Wallace.
Okay,
right. He's not Seneca Wallace, but
like Hunter Deckers might be great, but I'm just, I'm not ready to just dive full in that they're going to automatically be better at quarterback no matter how frustrating Purdy was. So the amount of talent they lost, and just, I got to be honest, man, after talking to Matt Campbell, Big 12 Media Days, like I know the coaching thing's not going to go away as far as like how long you're going to be here and all that. And I just got the feeling of like, it's just inevitable that it's going to happen. And I don't know. I'm just not as all in with Campbell and the Cyclones as I was like a year ago. So I have them at 7, Texas Tech at 8. I think that they'll give some teams some trouble. I think that they'll be bowl eligible. I think that Joey McGuire is certainly not inheriting an empty cupboard by any means, but there will be those natural growing pains. So I have them at 8, West Virginia at 9, and Kansas at 10. I know I went in deep explanation, but
no, that's fine.
I agree with you on Matt Campbell in that. There was a time where I could really convince myself that he was a guy because Mount Union and he's like a Midwestern guy, and he's not one who's going to necessarily, and I don't think he'll glory chase. Like, I don't think it'll be that. But given the way that we've seen this tectonic shift in how coaches are pursued and how there's this damn the torpedoes kind of pursuit of guys, and including Joey McGuire, who we're going to hire a guy off a team that we're playing in 2 weeks staff in the middle of the season. Like, those kind of things just didn't used to happen. Or we're going to not only fire the coach, but we are going to keep our powder dry to steal a coach from another university that would never think their coach would get stolen. And that happened to Notre Dame and Oklahoma. I mean, so those two things make me think that, particularly if Nebraska is open, and Trev Alberts is a guy who played for Tom Osborne, and Matt Campbell is this Midwestern.
What if it's not good enough for him now? What if they're so bad?
It could be the NFL. I just don't think. I'm not convincing myself anymore that he's going to be around for another 5-10 years in Ames. There's a
for
point.
Iowa State, I hope that he does. But
no, I know, but I'm just
for anybody.
For me, my opinion, I don't think that he's going to be around for 5-10 years. Now, I hope he doesn't. That we're doing this 5 years from now, we're still saying the same things.
Because then it's not a story.
It's ridiculous. And it's kind of getting to the point of being ridiculous now because it's going on 3-4 years of doing that. But I felt like they had a window last year. No matter what he's done, I think they're going to be really solid. But you can't tell me that they're so built up under him now that they're just going to replace the greatest team they had ever on paper. And they're just like, there's no missing,
But part of the other reason, Smokey, is why is Scott Frost lost? Not because he doesn't know how to coach offense.
You don't want to know the answer.
Well, the reason he's lost is because of the little things, right? What is Matt Campbell's forte?
Well, not special teams necessarily.
No, but some of the little things.
But my point about that is, again, what if the Nebraska job is such disarray that even the coach at Iowa State, who's been better, would have beaten them 4 or 5 years in a row? That's not enough of a lure.
Well, then it will be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think it could be the NFL. Like I said, and I'm not trying to make that a thing. I'm just less in belief that he's going to be a long tenured guy there. And he's already been pretty long tenured there, but I just don't see it another 5-10 years, him being in Ames. And I don't think most people in Ames probably see that either. And they're probably tired of hearing about this topic every single year, but
yeah, they are like probably Baylor or others with coaches they've had.
Anybody who's not a blue blood, basically. And even blue bloods got picked apart last year in the coaching carousel. So nobody's really safe, quite frankly, but
when Oklahoma and Notre Dame will lose coaches, that's a year of insanity. All right, so that's Craig and Paul. There's not much difference between the three. And yes, I do have my feet up on the counter. Like, how lazy does that look? Here's mine. I'm not good at these. Baylor, because if any of the teams below them had what they have coming back, we would pick them to win the conference. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
If even with the lack of experience of shape and but with what we saw, we're having some people that are high and mighty on certain teams and guys have never taken a snap. If any of the teams below them had their entire, all but one, offensive line and entire defensive line back, we wouldn't even be talking about who to pick. That'd be it. They'd be the pick. So Baylor won. Oklahoma State, I just think Mike Gundy sometimes can actually be underrated. He's done a really good job at that school. I think that the way they lost in that game in Arlington will just fuel them and has fueled them. Oklahoma, 3. It's almost impossible until we see them have a year and God knows they'll never go back to what they were in the 90s under John Blake and Snellenberger and Gibbs. But until proven otherwise, they're part of the conversation. And they were last year by the nostril hit because they almost came back to beat OSU and Stillwater.
They're going to be good. I mean, Dylan Gabriel and Jeff Lebby's previous relationship, I mean, that's going to be almost seamless. You know, Beatonball is going to have a great offensive line. Like, they're going to have skill guys. I mean, great major in the backfield. They just got a running back today from it was a random-ass running back pickup. Gosh, where's he from?
Who are you talking about?
Oklahoma. They just got a running back like today.
I thought was it a transfer that's from Texas? Not Texas UT.
Yeah,
but
it's a transfer portal thing. But they just got a guy today. So I don't know how he fits in, but Graham Majors I think will be solid. Offensively, I don't really, worry about them dropping off too much. Defensively, they should be good with Venables. There's been so much Sooner magic for like the last 20 years that at some point it's not just going to be seamless. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And that's not, necessarily the best way to predict, who's going to finish where. But I'm just not as all in because things have been so good for so long. And even having said that, I'm still thinking they're going to win like 9 games. So I'm not being dismissive of them by any means.
Yeah, well, when you've been as good as they have been, all of a sudden when somebody says you may not win more than 9 or 10 games, you still kind of hyperventilate and start frothing to the mouth. Yeah. And that's just from the pride and passion of that fan base. So I have Baylor, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. All 3 of us have the same. We did not share this at all. I have Kansas State at 4, Texas at 5. All of us have Texas at 5. And it's almost like Oklahoma until proven otherwise that they fall if they ever do. That until we see them actually do it on the field and sustain it, they're kind of in that pack. West Virginia, I like what they've done with Harrell and the quarterback and the upgrade there. Their defense is going to be strong. Iowa State, I really didn't know where to put them. Texas Tech, Baylor was picked 8 last year. They won the Big 12 conference. I'm not saying that's the case with Tech. They're 8. TCU 9.
If Joey McCarr wins the conference this year,
he'll be the coach of the Cowboys next year. And Texas Tech fans, don't get on me. And Kansas at 10. It's like with them until we can see them actually win a couple of games and just move up the ladder a little bit. We're all very similar. There's kind of a potpourri from 6 to 7, 8, 9. It just could be whatever. And we're going to have that. That's evidence. Levi Caraway did a great job putting that up. Garrett Ross, thank you back in the studio for getting that up as well. Why would we cuss Texas? Well, not